Next up, David Charles Allen, Village Properties Realtor and host of The Hop. That's Home Ownership Podcast. It's a Beautiful Life, because today is a very special episode. We're going to have an interview. But first, here's David to tell us about all things real estate in Santa Barbara.
Thanks, Patty. So weather's mostly sunny this week, mid to high 70s. The surf has been relatively flat. There may be some windsoil out there if you can find it, but if you're just trying to get wet, maybe you'll go have some fun. So how interest rates have been performing, we have 3% for a conforming 30-year fixed. So that's actually down from 3.125, which is good. And then non-conforming jumbo stayed consistent at 2.875. And if we want to jump right into the stats as well, we have 56 new listings this last week, 48 that went pending, 48 that closed, 16 price changes, and 4 coming soon. So again, we have a little bit more buildup of supply, even though it's not that much. It's 8 houses. And what was a huge standout is that there's 16 price changes. So that's been a bigger number than what we've seen in the past, and that could be a prelude to people pricing things too high and them not selling immediately now, and people really going to have to bring it back down to where the demand is at their price points.
Well, let's hope so. I like people to feel like they're getting a fair price, but not overpaying for things.
Yeah, in this market, it's hard to say everyone's giving it a fair price because
Mm-hmm.
everything's bid up so wildly.
Right.
Well, it's fair to somebody because someone's willing to pay it. So
Isn't that the truth? Yes.
I'm really excited today. We have a great guest by Douglas J Wyman. He's a longtime radio host himself and just an overall really great person. And we really look forward to talking with him more today. How you doing today, Douglas?
I'm doing great, David. Just great.
Well, thanks for being on. Is there anything you can kind of give us some hints on how you really got into radio in the first place for you?
Well, sure, sure. In the beginning, I was in college and decided that it wasn't for me. And then I found this place, which was a drama place run by John Todd. And John Todd was the one and only Tonto on the Lone Ranger, the radio program. And so I worked with him for 4 years, and he realized that I had a voice similar to his. And if so, he said, if I ever get sick, you can go on to the program. So he gave me his, me not know, Kimasabi. And I had to practice that until I had it down to his tone and all that stuff. The only difference between our voices was he was 64.5 and I was 20. So he said, just act a little older and you'll be fine.
Like
That
3
was-
times your age, yes.
Yes, yeah. So that was a great inspiration to me. He would have me memorize different things, Face on the Bottom Floor, Casey at the Bat, all those things. And then he'd take me to, with a whole bunch of other people, to the old people's home. And he says, now, Doug, if it plays here, it'll play anywhere. Go for it. And time after time, we would go to these folks' home, and time after time, the folks would give us a round of applause and clap and all that kind of stuff. So that sort of put the storm into me that, well, this could be my life.
What a good tip to try it out at the retirement home first. And if it goes there, it'll go anywhere. I just love that.
That is
And
amazing.
David is much younger than myself or yourself. And so he probably doesn't have a clue about the Lone Ranger. I'm just assuming. So can you tell him, I remember the television show, The Lone Ranger, but can you tell him how popular that was back in the day?
Oh yes, the whole everyone's family. When the Lone Ranger was on the radio, we didn't have TV back then, and when we did have it, there wasn't much on it. So everyone listened to the radio, and and all the families would listen to the Lone Ranger because the Lone Ranger on radio, the movie part of it, the television part of it, was taken from the radio part. The only difference was the Lone Ranger was a younger guy, and the Indian, they pretended like he was a real Indian, which he wasn't. But he did a pretty good job for it. So, but the radio program back in the 40s and 50s and 60s was listened by families all over the Detroit area, and I suspect all over the nation.
Oh, wow. So yeah, some of our listeners may not be able to see this like we're seeing it, but we're watching you on video right now, and I can't believe you're actually 93 years young. And it's amazing. You're still doing a radio program every week, aren't you?
I am, yes.
Now, how do you you have any tips to how keeping so sharp and overall health?
Well, the first thing is I am God-centered, and I pray to the Holy Spirit every evening to just allow me to wake up in the morning, and the Holy Spirit does, and I changed my eating habits and my drinking habits, and I eat well, very well. Eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and then dinner like a pauper. And over 4 years, I was 205 pounds at that time, and I was only 5'9.5". And over a 3 or 4 year period, lost 40 pounds. But the beautiful part about it is I've kept it off.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my body is in good stead.
Now tell us what keeps you so enthralled with the radio industry. What keeps you going in that? It seems like you do so much outreach within your community. You even have a show called All Things Local, and you're really there to help other people out. So I'd love to hear you talk more about that.
Yes. Well, Doris Davenport, it's really the Doris Davenport show, and I am her sidekick. So she is I'm the one that looked for the people that we should have on it, and then she'll interview them and decide on the time and so on. We get the bios from those people. We do the same thing that you're doing. Yeah, bounce off of their bios and ask them the kinds of questions that you will be asking me. And so we've been doing that we're going into our 6th year. During the pandemic, the show slowed down, and then we went on to do it on Facebook Live.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been on Facebook Live now for the last year or so, and it's gone national. Doris is Black, and she introduced some of the Black people from different parts of the country because they were tied in with not doing their business with the folks. They decided they were going to do the plays because they would make the play, and then they produce the play, and then they direct the play, and then they would do it. And so she had people from Los Angeles, New York, Birmingham, Alabama, and somewhere in Florida as well. And so we have a number of those folks that are on periodically. But the majority of the time, most of the people come from within probably 20 miles of Oak Park, where I live. And so Doris would ask me to interview those folks, and then I would decide those that would be on the radio program, and she'd contact them and make the dates. And we've been doing that for the last 5 years. Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. And it seems like you've really created a community in a village, you say, in Oak Park.
Yeah, Oak Park is a rather unusual village with 52,000 people. We decided back in the late 60s and early 70s that it would change and become a thoroughly integrated village where everyone, regardless of race, color, creed, sexual orientation, would be welcomed. And as of today, as far as I know, we are the only village that are totally integrated, scattered around the village, not block by block. We didn't allow the folks who were selling the programs from out of town to go block by block. So we had them scattered throughout the village. And that still is happening today. 40% of them are rentals. And first of all, we would not allow for sale signs. So there was no any scares. And then we had a black woman that went to the village hall, and she became the person that we said to the black folks, come to Oak Park. And then if there were 3 or 4 blacks on one block and they wanted to go on that block again, they'd send them to Sherwin Reed, and she'd say, welcome to Oak Park, any place in Oak Park. And we're not gonna send you there. We're gonna send you to another part. And we scattered people all over the town. So it was and still is an integrated village. And now we're moving to the next step, which is equity. Equity where there is not equity, and that's not only in the village, but it's also in the schools. And we want everyone who's black, white, brown, Asian, sexual, all the sexual orientations to be treated the same. And little by little, that concept is taking place.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you say Oak Park's 52,000 people. How big is Oak Park, and how did the community be able to get it so involved with how everything's happening right now?
Yes, it's not a large, it's 5 miles square. And so, and there is now the boundaries are stopped, so it can't grow any larger. So it's pretty concrete in that respect. But again, we have areas where there are only homes, and there's areas where there's a bunch of large apartments and larger buildings where people can rent or buy. And so the number of people that have grown over the last 10 years, because we put in little larger buildings, the 22-story buildings in the downtown area, which attracted a lot of young couples who decided they wanted to have children and go to a village or a town that had good schooling. And so Oak Park is very attractive to them. And so that's been a good thing for the village as well. So we're always looking for different and better ways to make this village a whole village that welcomes anybody and everybody. And so that's the journey that we're on with Oak Park, that we hope continues.
I love that what you've been doing. It seems like you've been a great resource for the community as well as helping out throughout along the way. it seems you're also a big family man yourself, as that's the closest community you have, so to say. And can you tell us a little bit more about your family and how
Uh,
grateful you are to have them and everyone in your life?
yes, indeed. When we got Barbara and I first got married. Well, first meeting, Barbara Louisa Wyman, this beautiful lady, and I. First time we didn't really like one another.
Really?
Yeah,
That's interesting.
she thought I was a little bit stuck up, and I thought she was a little bit giddy. And it was on a blind date.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. And so the second time I called her, I asked her if she likes to dance, and I just taken the Arthur Murray dance things, and I
Of
was a
course. Mhm.
pretty good dancer back there in the jitterbug days, and so we went dancing, and her mother said, "Well, what do you think of this guy on the second date?" "Well, he's a good dancer." And oh, so you might go out with him again? Yeah. And those were the days where you took the women and threw them over your back under, and all that kind of
I've
stuff.
seen those movies. That looks like so much fun. My mom used to talk about that too.
It was indeed. So I think it was probably fourth or fifth date that we decided that, we really, he's not really stuck up and she's not really giddy. and and little by little, we began to like one another and eventually fell in love and decided we were going to have 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. Well, we had 4 boys first. And she said, "Well, we have our 4 boys." And I said, "Well, I got to have a girl. Law of averages says we will have a girl." And then came Mary. And she said, "Okay, you got your girl." And Barbara came from a family of 4 boys, and she was in the middle of them. I said, "When we dated, you always complained that you didn't have a sister." She said, "That's right." And then here came Anne. And then I said, "Okay, we got our boys, we got our girls." And then whoops, 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 Joe, John, Jerry. Yeah. Yes. I finally found a doctor that gave me the real reason that we were having so many children, because back then you didn't talk about sex and we didn't know much about it. I found a doctor that taught me what was causing it.
You are funny, Douglas.
Yeah, so I had this beautiful, beautiful wife and these great, great children. And the others, and my in-laws, all of the in-laws are phenomenal and fantastic. Right here, we've got a terrific guy in Dale, Ann's husband, who I just adore. And he's so wise. It's good just to sit and listen to him, and we have discussions. And Mary, our daughter, has a husband that's similar. And I just get along so well with all of the family, the children, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren. So we have the 9 children, and then the 14 grandchildren, and then the 15 great-grandchildren, and another 1 or 2 coming along.
Wow.
So, and then they marry, and they have children, and so it's.
You must have some amazing holiday gatherings. I can only imagine.
Well, it is indeed.
Do some of them live in the village of Oak Park as well?
Yes, my oldest and my youngest and my third. My third sometimes lives in Oak Park and sometimes Florida.
Right.
Because he loves to go to Florida. He's a guy that loves to sail, and he used to own an inn on Boca Grande with another partner. So he'd go to run the inn in the wintertime, and he'd take his sailboat down there, and they'd sail and fish and go after the big fish and all that kind, like tarpons, all that kind of business. And so he'll be heading down to Florida this wintertime again, and he just seems to enjoy life and go a little bit wild when he Let's go.
Has a good time. I wanted to ask you, is your a radio show, does it stream live? Can we who are not in the area listen to it?
Yes, indeed. You go to on the Facebook Live, the THE Doris Davenport Show.com, and and you can decide which date you want and pull them off. Yeah.
I know. I'm looking forward to listening. How about you, David?
Yeah, I look forward to checking it out. Definitely.
Well, good.
So I know that your wife, you went on a journey with her and she had Alzheimer's, and I read on your bio that it was a great spiritual journey for you. I know my mother, it's not the same as having a spouse who has it, but my mother had Lewy body dementia, which was similar, and it is quite a journey. So tell us about that spiritual part and
Well,
what you,
yes.
yeah.
Indeed. When she was first diagnosed with it, and I didn't know what I didn't know about the disease, and so I did a lot of the wrong things wrong. Like, hey, honey, you've asked me that question 10 times, and then she would blush and say, "Well, I'm sorry." And then I joined the Alzheimer's caregiver group. A friend of mine took me there. And the first thing they taught me was you never do that. You go along with it and then just change the subject, because they don't remember what they
Don't remember. Yeah.
did before. So I learned a lot of the right things to do. And Barbara died 2 years and 7 months and 14 days ago. And I still remember all of the things and the stages that she went through. And as you know, those stages run from the beginnings and then towards the middle part where they begin to forget people. And then that last part, which for Barbara lasted for about 3 years. And that's when another man at the Alzheimer's caregiver group said to me, now is when you really have to make it a spiritual journey, because she will not remember you at all.
Right.
And I had these wonderful it was then a decision, do we put her in a home or do we keep her at home? And I met these 2 phenomenal caregivers, Sheila Barnes and Vella Murray. And I had Sheila come in the morning and Vella come in the evening. And then Vella would put her to bed at 8 o'clock. And for some reason or another, Barbara slept from 8 o'clock at night till 8 o'clock in the morning. And periodically I would have to get up just to go to the bathroom, and I always peek in with her, and there she was, sleeping away. So it truly did become a spiritual journey for me. And one day, and I would eat lunch. I had my office, took my office away from downtown Oak Park, and Anne came and made it helped me make it into, Anne and Mary and all the kids, our basement into the lower level. So it became a place where I could have my office. And so I'd have my office down there. And at lunchtime, Sheila would call me up and she'd be feeding Barbara, and Barbara would look at me with that look of, I wonder who you are. And so I would give her a big kiss, because we were big kissers. And she'd give me that look. I don't know who you are, but
but I like you're a good kisser.
I was pretty good.
Oh, there's some funny things that happen even in the midst of the sadness and the sorrow. I remember one time my mom had been staying out with me for 3 weeks, and I realized that she didn't know who I was. And then later on, I said, Mom, remember the day that you'd been with me for 3 weeks and I realized you didn't know who I was? And my mother said, she goes, well, how do you think I felt? So So even in the midst of it all, there were little humorous things, as sad as they were at the same time.
Well, exactly right. Yeah,
Mhm.
right. And Vella and uh, Sheila would take her for the last times in her wheelchair to the park. And in the park, we had this marvelous park. It dead ends into a, a field where there's the kids' park and the uh, volleyball and the all kinds of different sports being played. And they would always go over to where the kids were playing, into the uh, place where the kids were in the sandboxes. and, and Sheila would put her close to, and one kid would be throwing, and she's in her last 3 years,
Mhm.
throwing sand at another Barbara. Oh, you can't do that. And these
Wow.
kids would stop, and their mothers would come over to Barbara and say, hey, I wish you would come every day. Keep the
Oh,
kids on the straight
Oh
and narrow.
my.
Yeah,
that's cute.
yeah.
That's
So
cute.
it truly was a spiritual journey,
Yeah.
and one that on the last part of it, my daughter Mary called me and said, I'm coming. She said, why? I just have a feeling. So she came, and we had Barbara in hospital bed, and Mary took a mattress and laid down next to her. And Kathleen, Ann's daughter, showed up. She didn't know why, but she had the call. Something said,
Oh.
I gotta go to
Mhm.
Grandma and Grandpa's house," and she was there. And then Mary says, "I'll wake you up at 4 o'clock in the morning." And interesting, at 10 to 4 in the morning, we got up without being awoken and came in. And Mary said, "Bring in your Bible and bring in your music." So I brought in the Bible and the music, and she said, "Say some of the prayers, or just read some of the prayers." And Barbara's breathing was very, very heavy, very heavy. And then we went into song, and then she said, "Whisper to her ear and tell her it's okay if she wants to."
Oh.
So I did that. Oh, and then the heavy breathing stopped, and the really small breathing began for, probably 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, and then she just slowly passed away. And it was just, it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Beautiful.
That is such a
Even one of
beautiful story, Douglas.
my grandchildren came, and one of them is probably 5 years old, I guess. And as you know, when someone dies, all of a sudden they look so much younger.
Mm.
And his name was Joey. And I said, "Joey, I'd like to show you your grandma." And he said, "Oh, I can't go in there." I said, "You'll be very happy if you do." So he goes in there. He says, "Oh my God, she beautiful."
Oh. Gosh, you're gonna make me cry here, but thank you for sharing this your beautiful life and the life of your beautiful beloved wife and your journey together. And gee, I hope our listeners check out your radio program so they get to hear you a little bit more. Just thank you for being a blessed part of the Hop It's a Beautiful Life. David, what a treat this was.
Yeah, a treat indeed. Thank you so much, Douglas. I know that takes a lot, and it really shows how much beauty you have within you that you're willing to share with others. So thank you.
Yes.
Well, thank both of you.
So,
Well,
David, I
thanks.
want to make sure before we sign off that people know how they could get a hold of you if they have any questions about the real
Yep,
estate
you can
market
give
in
me a
Santa Barbara
call.
or looking for a house.
Sure thing. Yeah, my number is 805-617-9311. And my email is david@davidcharlesallen.com.
Thanks. Let's give it a go next week. Take care, David.
You, Patty.
Bye.